little dry, so we can then go like this. Hit the mix button. Make it real wet. I don't like it real wet. So one of the nice things you can do is, now we've got our mix. And one thing we can do, we've saved this mix, and this is really great if you're a sound guy and you're working those shows where they got 4 bands, no waiting, and you have the luxury of sound checking each of them before they go on. Or if you've worked with them before, we can take, so now I've saved the Blues Fest mix. So next year when they hire me again, and they will because we did such a great job, I can just walk in and go boom, and it's loaded. I don't have to go through this whole process we just did. If you're working with different bands all the time, and you can just set that up. Then the only thing you have to compensate for is the room acoustics. And there's a couple of ways to do that. There we go into system. Oh. And now I've got a graphic EQ built into the board where I can subtly tune for different rooms. Some rooms, like the Crow's Nest with a lot of glass on one wall, have a lot of bright side on the right side of the left side of the stage, and the other side's all carpets, and it's all dark on that side of the stage, so you have stereo EQs. You can compensate for that, or I can go into the fat channel for the main and just say, I need to get rid of some lows. Come on, turn on. Oh, sorry, no high pass on that. But I have a full parametric EQ here where I can just gently shape the room. So very useful. This board is incredibly powerful as a live board. I can, if I want to, just as I've demonstrated, use it as a playback mixer. One of the nice things about that is I've got 16 channels of compression. I've got some pretty decent studio reverbs and echoes that offloads what normally would be taken up in CPU power on my computer. So my computer can do more other things, more intensive stuff, expansion and companding they call it, and other stuff that's really intensive on select channels. So it's an incredibly useful tool. Oh, and the studio audience has a question.
What if you wanted to go out in the room and hear your mix?
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked that, because another thing that came along, and let's talk a little bit about how this occurred. PreSonus, as you may have been aware of, is a company that has been long involved in computer-based recording. And even before that, they had one of the first affordable, decent-sounding little box compressors and a little box preamp. And they expanded it into interfaces, and this is kind of the culmination of that effort. This board is all digital, right? We have our preamps that they import the analog sound and then convert it immediately to digital. And that's what we did here is when I had this show, I recorded all that digital raw onto my computer. But in here, it's all digital. We have a few knobs, but they're controlling digital processing, not analog. And the way to develop it, being smart boys, is they developed it on a computer, right? So having developed it on a computer, this mixer actually can live in the computer. All we really need is the input output. So we have on the computer, not only do we have this, and I need to do that. But we have the computer here. Oh, look at that. There it is. There's my mixers, there's my compression, there's my EQ. Oh, look, there it is, fat channel. So I can actually, and there's my graphic EQs, and there's an outboard, back to overview. So we have all that here, and they took it one step further. If we have the controls for the computer here, and to be clear, when you're mixing the show live with the PreSonus StudioLive, all the audio stays here. There is no audio transference here if you're just using this live. The only audio transfers is if you want to capture the audio for future processing, as we just did. But you can control the mixer from the computer. I can go over here and just say I want more, less, whatever. And because they're not motorized, you don't see that happening, but the sound is changing. Now, taking it one step further, because this is attached by FireWire, I'm not geeky enough to tell you that FireWire maximum cable length is 3.8 meters. I don't know what it is. But it's not far enough to take your computer out into the middle of the room and do a mix. But what we have here, and currently it's only an iOS application, is the Apple iPad. And it will run on first generation, second generation, third generation. I happen to have second generation because I'm thrifty. The day third generation came out, I saved $100. And here, I can go and change. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm moving this fader here, that fader there is moving. I can go in here and I can change my auxiliary mix. What's an auxiliary mix, you say? It's what the vocalist complains about. I can't hear enough of me. Oh, really, vocalist? How's that? So I can pick different mixes. Oops, sorry. Here's my EQ for that. Let's go back to there. So I can take this. Now what's nice about this for setting the show is I can grab this and I can go up to the microphone and go test, test, test. Okay, that microphone needs to be tested. Okay, there we go. And I can balance all the channels in that aux mix. And I can do the voices, I can do the guitars, I can do snare drum. I can add in, if it's, and I've done this, a show where I had a hip hop artist with backing tracks. I can bring up the backing tracks in the mix. I can add a little bit of reverb, all for this aux channel, and I can go to, keep hitting the wrong button. I can go to all 6 aux channels. I can also control the effects, master buses. So all of this from here. So I walk around to each channel and set up the mix for that particular microphone. And then when the show's running, I can go out, get myself a nice little cocktail table, have a little glass of Chardonnay perhaps. I usually don't drink when I'm working a show, so I probably have some sparkling water, maybe a diet soda or something. And I can sit here and then mix the show from my iPad. The beauty of this is several-fold. One is I have a $400 iPad as opposed to a $700 Snake, which is what you need to have 8 returns and 16 channels to do it right. I mean, you can get them cheaper, but anyway, the more important thing for me as a sound guy, getting paid by the note, so to speak, is I don't have to spend 30 minutes rolling the Snake and then have the claw motor tell me, no, it can't go here, you have to move it somewhere else. So 45 minutes setting just the Snake, which weighs 100 pounds, by the way. And then another 45 minutes wiping the beer off of it after the show, coiling it up nicely so it'll roll out nice the next time, and then lugging it out to the car and finding room for it. I got my little iPad. So it's a very useful tool. And the software for the iPad is free. Multiple iPads can be run. It also has software. You know, I'm not sure if it's on this particular device or not. No, I don't have it on this device, but they have a Q is the application. It runs on an iPhone or an iPod Touch. And basically, it's these aux mixes on your iPhone, and it has that all-important Me knob. So one knob is dedicated that you as a singer can assign what you want, your guitar, your voice, to that one knob and make it louder. And once it's as loud as it can get, it just keeps turning the rest of the band down in your monitor until all you have is me. Anyway, this is great stuff. Stop by the store if you're close hand. Talk to me about this if it has any interest at all. It has solved a multitude of sins for me. It makes my load in and load out at the same clubs with the same bands amazingly quick. I have been able to sell tracks. Oh, you got that on audio? I'd like a copy. You know? So it's a very powerful tool. It's very reasonable. The street price on this is a couple of grand. It's not a lot of money when you think about that. I've got 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 28 compressors. You know, if you were going to go DBX alone, that would be $2,800 just for the compression. Oh, we've got 8 third octave EQs. Again, it's $200 a piece. It's $800. Okay, that's $3,600 compression and EQ. We haven't even talked about the mixer. 16 channels of mix from anybody with Firewire out. It's $1,500. So you got, you know, oh, and nice onboard effects, noise gates. Well, those come with compressions, but parametric EQ. You know, a board like this from somebody else with outboard gear, you're north of $5 grand. Well, for $5 grand, you can get this in some really nice front of house. Anyway, just something to think about. Give me a call, send me an email, jack@guitarshowcase.com. Thank you for paying attention. We'll see you next time.